Welcome to another episode of Adventures in Movies Looks at dot dot dot. My name is Nathaniel Meir, and I'm the movie editor at AIPT. Joining me on this episode are the hosts of AIPT, or Adventures in Movies as we normally call it.
Yeah. Wait, do we? Yeah, we do, huh?
Sometimes when we get it right, we do. Hey, we got a special treat this week. So we are looking at An Unquiet Grave. It just screened at world premiere, actually, was just at the recently concluded Nightstream Film Festival. The Nightstream Film Festival was a combination of five genre film fests that, because of COVID-19, they couldn't continue. So they got together and they had one like super fest, like Toto basically, with less guitars and more blood. But it was the Boston Underground Film Festival, the Brooklyn Horror Festival. I have them on. There's so many of them. The North Bend Film Fest, the Overlook Film Fest, and Popcorn Frights Film Festival all came together to do this like super virtual film festival. And An Unquiet Grave was one of the movies they screened. Now, this movie is about a man whose wife has died in a car accident, and a year later he decides to bring her back to life. The question becomes, when is unquiet too quiet? So, what did you guys think of? Interesting in this movie, not a lot of action, lots of exposition dumping. What did you think of that?
Go ahead, Danny.
Okay, so I feel
Lay it all out on the table.
I didn't really care for a lot of the exposition. I think I wanted more fright. It was a super interesting plot. Like, I guess it gave me enough to be like, oh, okay, that's really cool. Like, I want to see more.
So yes,
you
yes.
know.
All you can do is throw your hands up sometimes. Yeah. What did you think?
So I'm feeling kind of the same way. I thought, for a large chunk of the beginning, I was like, okay, like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the other thing I would say is I thought this was going to be a big setup for a bunch of like dark lore, which I typically really like. Right. And yeah, I mean, with all the exposition, it's a little thin in that kind of stuff.
That's an interesting point. I'd like to get into that. But in regards to the first time I got worried is okay. So I think the editing was pretty bad. Yeah, like they start off at the grave, and then it says months later.
Months later. My girlfriend asked about that.
It seems like it's a mistake, and it ends up. Well, okay, so spoiler warning. We won't ruin anything about this movie, and there is a lot of stuff you can ruin about it. However, we might say some things that it won't give any hints or anything, but it won't ruin your enjoyment, but it will kind of delve into the story. So when it said months later, I thought it was a mistake. Turns out it wasn't. I thought it was the movie's way of kind of messing with my mind. So I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be one of those what's real, what's not, flashback. Like, I was kind of into it. The second Ava said, oh, a year ago, your wife died in this car, and she started talking about it, I was like, oh no, this is going to be one of those movies where we're not going to see that much, but they're going to tell us everything.
Yeah. Yeah, at one point I think I yelled at the TV and I was like, "We get it, like let's move on."
Yeah. So let's kind of get into that then. We'll try to be unlike An Unquiet Grave, and we won't dump too much exposition on it. So Blake, you mentioned the dark lore, and it does seem like it is building up to that. So part of the dark lore would be the ritual. What did you guys think of the ritual, and how well they didn't get into the possible lore of this resurrection?
So I actually didn't think the ritual part was too bad. I mean, I got it right away. I was like, okay, limited budget, very small cast, I was willing to give this movie a lot of breaks because of that. And I didn't hate the ritual. I thought the premise of the ritual, how it's like they're experiencing two different things. I thought that was cool. Right. I actually did think that there was some cool stuff. It was very dark and it was very hard to see, but I did think that the premise, and I'm probably going to say that a lot maybe. I thought the premise of it was pretty cool.
I think it was one of those good idea in theory and not in practice. Right. we watch a lot of independent movies. We do so, and there is a lower budget, so there's a lot of things that it's not so much that you forgive them or give them a pass, and you just don't think about it anymore.
Mhm.
It's just the way it is. This movie is one of the rare times where I actually thought like that doesn't look good. And I never think that about independent because I understand they're working on a tight budget. Yeah, this movie, just the lighting is not very, and not just in that part, like throughout
Oh,
the movie, it's very difficult to see what's going on. The ritual, like you said, cool idea. Like I got it with, you needed the blood sacrifice. I like the idea of you have to turn your back, or yeah, you have to turn your back, and the whole they're possibly in different air places or whatever the heck is going on. I like all of that, and it kind of seems like it's going to be a gateway into something more. It doesn't quite work out like that, unfortunately. What did you think, Danny?
Yeah, the ritual part was the part that I was saying. Oh, it's like Full Metal Alchemist. You're gonna start sacrificing, and then at that point, I was like, oh, I see what's gonna happen. With everything, if you've seen Full Metal Alchemist, there you go, spoiler. You understand what's happening. You have to give an eye for an eye, and I really did like that. I thought that was, and it's also probably the scene that's the most lit, I guess, like it has the most light in it, even though it's like a night
pretty
scene.
dark.
Yeah, yeah. The ritual scene is what I think up to that point I was like, oh, okay, this is still very interesting. Like I was forgiving a lot of the things and just yeah, we do watch a lot of indie films, and I feel like this one budget did seem like even like major films, like you see it too, but like I do feel like this one was everything was like super tight budget, super tight schedule. Um, it felt a little bit rushed. Like
It's a
it
good point. It's a good
makes
point.
sense.
Yeah, and that's one thing that no matter what your budget is, if you're rushed and people can see it, it's not a good thing. You could have all the
Yeah,
money in the world. It
yeah,
doesn't. So this is going to sound a little bit contrary, but lots of exposition, but it kind of leaves a lot to the imagination also. It shows very little. I found that to be very disappointing. Um, I just, it seems like there was going to be constant payoffs, and you would figure after, I don't know, it's because it's not a long movie. You would
No.
figure after 30, 40 minutes, you'd realize that there's not going to be that big payoff, and it just, nothing. I understand, like the whole Reservoir Dogs thing. Like they don't show it, you think about it's worse, right?
Mm.
Because you're thinking about it. Never quite worked like that in this movie.
No, and like Blake was talking about like the lore and everything. You get those hints, and I feel like you could do so much with that. Like even with your exposition, you could talk about it just a little bit more, and you're more like involved with the story. I
True.
feel because they're giving us so much backstory. This is a thing. Like you're 16 years old, and you're writing the coolest character ever, but then when you get to the main story, he's paper thin. And this is what this whole story is very paper thin. There is no there's a lot of things that there's some things that I did like where the mystery is there, like you said, Pat. But like you need more like with your limited budget, you could do maybe like a thump maybe or something. Like you have the sound effect, you have the
This is
score that's
true.
like eerie. You could do something with that.
So, Blake, you mentioned limited cast, and it's very limited in cast size.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I mean, we literally you have two people who have to carry the paper thin plot, as Danny mentioned. And so, what did you think about? Well, let's start with the characters themselves. What did you think of the characters?
They were bad. They were pretty. I mean, the best one of the things about this, it all felt like kind of Danny says, kind of like it's all kind of very tertiary surface like characters.
Yeah,
Kind
fair
of
enough.
kind of like, oh, the sister is more of a smoker and she's more of a punk than and so
Yeah.
like, and then like the guy's like this kind of like weakling. There's not much to him.
Yes.
And so the characters themselves, I didn't love. I thought they were just kind of. I thought like again, I thought these were just a setup for like a really dark, like overarching lore that I was gonna be like at the end it was gonna be like, oh shit, that was dark, and it. I mean, okay, it tries to do that, but no.
I think the characters were, yeah, you kind of gave like You kind of, yeah, like you can't really give them that resounding like.
Everything's so tepid in this movie. Nothing gives you like that full on like climax. It's everything is like
You're right.
just.
I was
It's gonna take it away.
waiting for something the entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, like, I hate to say this, but to call them generic would be an improvement. Like,
Ouch.
it was pretty thin, pretty thin.
Yeah.
Oh, what did you think of the performances?
I didn't think the performances were bad necessarily at all. I thought they did what they could with what they were working with. You know, I don't think it's a testament of bad acting, really. I mean, they were just, you know, it wasn't. I didn't think they were awful. You know, I've seen way worse, like Wrestle Massacre, 10,000 times worse acting than this. But you know, it had some pop to it, as Danny said.
It was fun. Well, and Unquiet Grave is an example of acting where there's not a bad thing that you can say about it, but there's nothing good. There's no impression. I mean, nothing. You're just like, it was serviceable.
Vanilla pudding, man. Vanilla pudding.
I don't even know if it's vanilla pudding, man. It's like I
like vanilla pudding, all right. Okay.
Well, I like vanilla pudding, but I don't like. I'm not gonna say this is vanilla pudding. This is nothing. No, this is nowhere near vanilla pudding. This is like. I honestly did not
before it's mixed, maybe just in the box. you're eating a literal box.
It's the store brand too.
It's I really did think like the actress's acting was the worst, I think, of the two, and it's funny because I started thinking about the other movie that it was just the girl and the guy who were trapped in the
Centigrade.
Yeah, and I thought that was so great. Like what, like, and that's also like a very limited budget and everything.
Oh, man.
But
they were working with a whole lot less.
And I feel like this, you had way more range of emotions, especially from the girl, and it just everything felt flat. And again, that's why I said earlier today, like earlier in this video, is like it felt rushed. Everything just felt like you had to hit a marker every single time. And it was just that
Yeah. Did this? It's a horror movie. It's about bringing back a loved one. Did it build the right atmosphere? Do you guys think? Because I mean, it was spooky.
It could have been. It could have been spooky. I don't know. There was a couple moments I guess I thought were like, all right. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I think there was a cool concept in here.
Yes.
Like there was definitely some cool stuff. Like I would love to see them like take another crack at it.
No, there's there's a good story in there. There absolutely is. It's pretty simple. It's kind of Pet Cemetery-esque, but it's
very very much. Yep.
Yeah, someone's loves their understandably, right?
Yeah.
Wants to bring her back to life.
I mean, Dark Song. Have you seen A Dark Song? So that's another story just like this, but two people locked in a house. Have you seen A Dark Song?
No.
I highly recommend that. And maybe the filmmaker should check that out as well, because it is really, really good. And it's got like some of the similar concepts, but it is executed very well. It's got a lot of nuance to it.
Do you guys think that they ever got, so the most important character arguably is one who's dead as soon as the movie starts. Do you ever think they got that sense of loss across well? You know what? I will say this. You can tell that the husband was in a lot, and he obviously went to extreme lengths to bring her back. So not so much by his emotions but by his actions, you can tell. And I don't know if that's a good thing per se, but obviously, I mean, it really did affect him. He went to some extraordinary lengths.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's affected. But
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So, An Unquiet Grave. Would you say see it on opening night? Would you say rent it? Say wait to stream, or do you pass?
Like
me,
yeah.
It's spooky season. If you want to watch a spooky movie, stream it. I guess. I don't know. I have a hard time with it. I'd pass on it. I'd pass on it. There's other stuff out there.
What about you, Danny?
I would also say pass. Like, this is not, even though it's spooky season, there's a lot more terrible things to watch.
Terrible in a good way.
Yeah, terrible in a good way, and you could have a better time watching something better.
This is a tough one, man, because like you want to support the ecosystem, especially
Definitely.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much out there that's underappreciated and underseen, but I mean, I would totally say pass on this. I by the end of the movie, I was trying to convince myself why someone should stream this, and
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I mean, just pass on A Quiet Grave. So right now, or actually last night, we did a live stream and we announced a giveaway, a Back to the Future Ultimate Trilogy. So every week we say, leave a comment, and if you leave a comment, if you like, and if you subscribe, each thing that you do will be an entry into that giveaway. It's the all three Back to the Future movies and a bonus disc with some cool interviews on it. We're here every week on Adventures in Movies looks at ... where we look at all kinds of movies. Except in October, we're only going to look at horror movies. But check us out next week.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys.
Great Scott! Adios.